I stare at the champagne flute in my hand, watching tiny bubbles rise to the surface like my mounting disgust. The annual Morrison Family Foundation Gala always brings out the worst in everyone, but tonight takes the prize for pure, unadulterated bullshit. My sister Lily stands at the podium, delivering her perfectly rehearsed speech about community service and family values. The pearls Mother gave her catch the light as she gestures, and I can't help but notice they're the ones I was supposed to inherit. "Ruby, darling, do try to look more engaged," Mother whispers, her manicured nails digging into my arm. "The Peterson family is watching." I resist the urge to dump my champagne down her designer dress. Instead, I plaster on the smile I've perfected over 28 years of being the family disappointment. "Of course, Mother." The ballroom of the Grand Meridian Hotel sparkles with old money and new pretensions. My husband Ethan works the crowd like the social climber he is, laughing too loud at jokes that aren't funny. He catches my eye across the room and gives me that smile, the one that used to make my heart skip but now just makes my skin crawl. Something's off about him tonight. He keeps checking his phone, disappearing for stretches of time. I've seen this behavior before, just not from him. And none of this would be possible without our wonderful family, Lily concludes, her voice dripping honey. The crowd applauds, and I notice Ethan isn't at his table anymore. I excuse myself from Mother's clutches and head toward the service corridor. The click of my heels echoes against marble as I follow my instincts down the hallway. A woman's laugh, Lily's laugh, drifts from around the corner. "We can't keep doing this," Ethan's voice, low and urgent. "Ruby's starting to suspect something. Please, my sister wouldn't notice if you tattooed 'I'm sleeping with Lily' on your forehead. She's too busy trying to prove she doesn't need our parents' approval." I freeze, my hand pressed against the cold wall for support. The champagne in my stomach turns to acid. "That's not fair," Ethan says, but there's no real defense in his voice. "Ruby loves you." Lily's laugh again, sharper this time. "Ruby loves the idea of having a perfect sister, just like she loves the idea of having a perfect marriage. We both know neither is true." I step around the corner. They spring apart like guilty teenagers, but not fast enough to hide what I've seen. Lily's lipstick is smeared. Ethan's tie is loose. The pearls around my sister's neck mock me with their perfect shine. "Ruby," Ethan starts, but I hold up my hand. "How long?" Lily smooths her dress, already composing her face into the innocent expression that's fooled our parents for years. "It's not what you think." 8 months, Ethan cuts in. "Since the Christmas party." The Christmas party. When Mother announced she was giving Lily the family pearls because she'd make better use of them. When Ethan held me as I cried later that night, telling me it didn't matter, that we'd make our own traditions. I look at my sister. Really look at her. Behind the perfect makeup and calculated charm, I see something new. Fear. She knows she's miscalculated. "You know what's funny?" I say, my voice steady despite the earthquake in my chest. "I always thought you were the smart one, Lily. The favorite, the perfect daughter. But this?" I gesture between them. "This is sloppy." "Ruby, please." Ethan reaches for me, but I step back. "Don't worry. I won't make a scene. Not tonight. Mother would never forgive me for ruining her precious gala." I turn to leave, then pause. "Oh, and Lily? Those pearls? They look fake." I walk away, their protests fading behind me. The ballroom buzzes with oblivious chatter as I return to my seat. Mother beams at me, probably thinking I've finally learned to behave. If she only knew. The daughter they've always underestimated is about to show them exactly what she's capable of. And it starts tonight. I raise my champagne glass and smile. Let them think it's a toast to family values. 3 days after the gala, I sit across from Daniel at Cafe Luna, watching him process what I've just told him. His coffee grows cold, untouched, while I've already shredded my napkin into confetti. "So your sister and Ethan," he says finally, running a hand through his dark hair. "Since Christmas." 8 months of lies. I drop another piece of napkin. 8 months of family dinners, charity events, weekend brunches, all while they were... My voice cracks, and I hate myself for it. Daniel reaches across the table, his hand covering mine. "Have you told your parents?" A bitter laugh escapes me. Mother's response was to suggest I try harder to keep my husband interested. Father hasn't even returned my calls. "Jesus, Ruby." The cafe door chimes, and I tense as Lily walks in. Of course she'd come here. It's her favorite spot to be seen by the right people. She freezes when she spots us, then squares her shoulders and approaches our table. "Ruby," she says, her voice honey-sweet. "We need to talk about this like adults." Daniel's hand tightens on mine. "I don't think now's the time." "I wasn't talking to you." Lily's mask slips for just a second, showing the steel underneath. "This is family business." "That's rich," I say, standing up. "Since when did family mean anything to you beyond what you could take from it?" "You're being dramatic." She glances around, noticing the other patrons starting to stare. "Mother and father are worried about you. They think you're not thinking clearly. Let me guess. They're worried about the foundation's reputation? About what people will say when they find out their perfect daughter has been sleeping with her sister's husband?" Lily grabs my arm, her nails digging in. "Keep your voice down. You're embarrassing yourself." I wrench away from her. No, I'm done being the quiet one. The understanding one. The one who steps aside so precious Lily can have everything she wants. "You don't understand anything," she hisses. "You never have. Everything's always been handed to you. The inheritance, the position at the foundation, Ethan—" "Handed to me?" The laugh that comes out of me doesn't sound like my voice at all. "Mother made me turn down Stanford because it wasn't appropriate. Father cut me off when I wanted to start my own business. And Ethan? He was your consolation prize to me, wasn't he? Something to keep me occupied while you played the perfect daughter?" Daniel stands now, placing himself slightly between us. "I think you should leave, Lily." She ignores him, her eyes locked on mine. Mother and father are willing to forgive this little outburst. They're prepared to be generous, set you up with a new apartment, maybe that marketing firm you've always wanted. The pieces click into place. "They knew," I whisper. "They knew about you and Ethan, didn't they?" Lily's silence is answer enough. "Get out." My voice is ice now. "Get out before I tell everyone in this cafe exactly what kind of person you are." She leaves, but not before saying, "Don't do anything you'll regret, Ruby. Some bridges can't be rebuilt." I sink back into my chair, shaking. Daniel sits beside me now, his arm around my shoulders. "I could kill them all," I mutter. "Or," he says carefully, "if you could do something worse." I look at him. There's something in his expression I've never seen before. A calculated understanding that makes my breath catch. "The Foundation's annual audit is coming up," he continues, "and I happen to know some interesting things about their bookkeeping practices." "How would you know that?" He smiles, and it's not entirely kind. "Because before I met you, I worked for the firm that handles their accounts. I left because I saw things that didn't sit right." I stare at him, seeing him in a new light. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" "Waiting for the right moment, I suppose." He pulls out his phone, showing me a folder of documents. "Your family's perfect facade? It's built on sand. One push in the right direction." I think about Mother's dismissal, Father's silence, Lily's smug certainty that they can buy my compliance, 8 months of betrayal, and years before that of subtle cruelty disguised as love. "Show me everything," I say. Daniel's smile widens. "I thought you'd never ask." The Morrison Foundation's financial records spread across Daniel's dining room table like a roadmap to my family's hypocrisy. Each spreadsheet tells its own story of creative accounting and carefully hidden transactions. My hands shake as I trace the numbers, seeing years of manipulation laid bare in columns and rows. "Your father's been moving money through shell companies for years," Daniel says, highlighting another suspicious transfer. "The charitable donations aren't going where they're supposed to." My phone buzzes. Another message from Ethan. I silence it without looking. "Show me the worst of it." This one. Daniel pulls out a document dated 3 months ago. $1 million transferred to an offshore account right after your sister's promotion to executive director. The irony makes me laugh. The position I was too inexperienced for. A knock at the door makes us both freeze. Daniel moves to answer it while I quickly gather the papers. Through the peephole, he sees my father standing in the hallway. "Ruby." Father's voice carries through the door. "We need to talk." Daniel looks at me, waiting for my decision. I nod, straightening my spine. Father walks in like he owns the place, his expensive suit a stark contrast to Daniel's modest apartment. His eyes catch on the hastily gathered papers, and something flickers across his face. "I see you've been busy," he says. "Learning about the family business," I reply. "The real one, not the charitable facade." He sits without being invited. "Your mother's worried sick. Lily says you've been making threats." "Threats?" I lean forward. "I haven't threatened anyone. I'm just finally paying attention to what's been happening right in front of me." "Whatever you think you know. I know about the shell companies," I cut in. "The fake donations, the money laundering. Did you really think nobody would notice?" His face hardens. "You're out of your depth." "No, I'm finally swimming in the right pool." I push the offshore account document toward him. "Tell me, Father, was this Lily's signing bonus for keeping quiet about Ethan? Or was it payment for playing her part in your little scheme?" "You've always been dramatic," he says, but his hands clench. "Like your mother. Seeing conspiracies where there's only family looking out for its own." Daniel moves to stand behind my chair. "Is that what you call embezzling from your own charity? Looking out for family?" Father's eyes snap to him. "And you, the disgraced accountant who couldn't keep his mouth shut about client confidentiality. Is this revenge for being fired? Using my daughter to settle old scores?" "Daniel didn't tell me anything I couldn't have found myself," I say, though this is news to me. "The real question is, what happens when the board sees these records?" "You wouldn't dare." Father stands, looming over me. "You'd destroy everything this family has built." "You mean everything you've stolen?" I stand too, matching his posture. "What would your society friends say if they knew their charitable donations were funding Lily's apartment and mother's shopping sprees?" "Think carefully about your next move," he warns. "There are things you don't know, Ruby. Things that could hurt more than just the family reputation." Before I can respond, my phone buzzes again, this time with a news alert. My blood runs cold as I read the headline: "Morrison Foundation executive accused of misappropriating funds." Father's smile is razor sharp. "Did you think you were the only one who could play this game?" I scan the article. My name appears prominently, alongside accusations of theft and fraud. They've set me up as the fall person. "How long have you been planning this?" I whisper. "Since you started asking questions about the Christmas party transfer." He straightens his tie. "We gave you every chance to fall in line, Ruby. Remember that." He leaves us standing there, the article glowing accusingly on my phone screen. Daniel immediately starts gathering documents. "We need to move fast," he says. "They've played their hand, but we still have the real evidence." I look at the papers, at the years of carefully documented fraud, at the proof of my family's true nature. "They think they've won," I say, my voice steady despite the rage building in my chest. "They think I'll run and hide like I always have." Daniel pauses. "What are you thinking?" I pick up the offshore account document, the one with both my father's and Lily's signatures. I'm thinking it's time to show them exactly who they created when they decided to make me the family scapegoat. The game has changed, but they've forgotten one crucial detail. I'm a Morrison too, and I learned from the best how to destroy someone completely. The police station's fluorescent lights make everything look sickly, including Detective Martinez's forced smile as she slides another document across the table. My lawyer, hastily arranged by Daniel, shifts uncomfortably beside me. "Let's go through this again, Miss Morrison," Martinez says. "The Foundation's records show you authorized these transfers." I stare at my signature on the papers. Perfect forgeries, down to the slight curl in the Y. "Those aren't mine." "They look authentic to our experts." "Everything about my family looks authentic until you scratch the surface." The detective's phone buzzes. She checks it, and something changes in her expression. "Your sister's here. She's offering to make a statement." Of course she is. I imagine Lily in the next room, perfectly composed, rehearsing her lines like she's done since we were children. The thought makes me want to scream, but I keep my voice steady. "I'd like to see these experts of yours." "Ruby," my lawyer warns. "No, I mean it." I lean forward. Because someone who can forge signatures that well must be expensive. The kind of expensive that leaves a trail. The kind my father would know how to hide. Martinez studies me. You're claiming your father orchestrated this? I'm claiming my father orchestrates everything. I pull out my phone, pulling up the photos Daniel helped me gather, including these transfers to offshore accounts that coincidentally started right after he made Lily executive director. The detective's eyes narrow as she swipes through the images. Where did you get these? The same place I got proof that the Foundation's charitable works are about as real as my sister's conscience. A knock at the door interrupts us. Another detective enters, whispering something to Martinez. Her expression shifts again. "Excuse me," she says, gathering her papers. "Don't leave the room." Through the door's window, I watch Martinez approach a group in the hallway. My mother stands there, elegant even in crisis, while father speaks intensely with a man in an expensive suit. Lily hovers nearby, phone in hand, probably updating Ethan on their latest move against me. "Your parents' lawyer is well connected," my lawyer murmurs. "We should consider a deal." No. I turn away from the window. They want me to take the fall. Admit to embezzlement, spare the family name, probably get a suspended sentence thanks to father's influence. Then they'll ship me off somewhere quiet with a monthly stipend to keep my mouth shut. It might be the smartest play. It might be the expected play. I pull out one final document, the one Daniel and I held back. But they forgot something important about being the family disappointment. No one ever expects you to learn from what they teach you. Martinez returns, but she's not alone. A woman in a sharp FBI jacket follows her in. "Miss Morrison," the agent says, "I'm Special Agent Cooper. We'd like to discuss your family's international banking activities." I smile, thinking of Daniel's late nights tracking the money through shell companies and tax havens. "I was wondering when you'd show up." "Ruby," my lawyer starts, but I cut him off. "It's okay. I've been preparing for this conversation." I look directly at Cooper. "How would you like to know where every penny of the Morrison Foundation's charitable donations really went for the past decade?" Cooper sits down, pulling out a recorder. "Why don't you start at the beginning?" Through the window, I see my father notice the FBI jacket. His face goes pale. Mother's hand flies to her pearls. The real ones, not the fakes she gave me. Lily stops typing mid-message, her perfect mask cracking. "The beginning?" I lean back, finally feeling in control. "Well, it started with a Christmas party, a pair of pearls, and a family that thought they could keep me quiet by taking everything I loved." Cooper nods, pressing record. "Take your time." I do. Because revenge, like the best family recipes, requires perfect timing and precise measurements. And I've been measuring this dish for years. "You should know," I add, "that this isn't just about money. It's about a pattern of manipulation that goes back years. And I have witnesses who can corroborate everything." "Witnesses?" Martinez asks. Starting with Daniel Matthews, the accountant my father fired for asking too many questions, and ending with Sophie Chen, my husband's new girlfriend, who has some very interesting text messages from my sister about their plan to discredit me. The pieces are falling into place, and through the window, I watch my family realize it too. They taught me well. Too well. And now they'll learn what happens when the scapegoat decides to stop running. Sophie's text arrives at 3 in the morning. "Meet me at Riverside Park, 7 a.m. Come alone." I show it to Daniel, who's been up all night helping me sort through the FBI's questions. "It's a trap. Obviously." He rubs his tired eyes. "Your father's probably behind it." Or Lily. I stare at the message, remembering how Sophie used to be my friend before she became Ethan's convenient consolation prize. Either way, I'm going. "Ruby, I need to know what game they're playing." The park is empty when I arrive, except for Sophie sitting on our old favorite bench. She looks smaller somehow, less polished than usual. Her designer bag, a gift from my mother, I notice, sits between us like a barrier when I sit down. "They're planning to pin everything on Daniel," she says without preamble. "Your father has documents showing he orchestrated the whole scheme for revenge after being fired." My hands clench. "Those would be forgeries like the ones they used on me." "Does it matter? Your father's lawyers are better than yours." She pulls out a folder. "These are copies of what they're going to present to the FBI." I don't take them. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I remember who you were before all this. Before your family twisted everything." She laughs bitterly. Before I let them twist me too. A jogger passes, and we both fall silent until he's gone. In the distance, I see a familiar car, Ethan's, parked just out of obvious sight. They're watching, aren't they? Sophie nods slightly. They think I'm here to convince you to take the deal. Plead guilty, spare the family name. They'll make sure you serve minimal time. And Daniel takes the fall for the financial fraud. It's a good offer, Ruby. Better than what's coming if you don't take it. I stand, finally understanding. You're not here to warn me. You're here to threaten me. I'm here because I owe you the truth. She reaches for my arm, but I step back. They have everything planned. The evidence against Daniel, the character witnesses, even a paper trail showing he manipulated you into turning against your family. And what do you get out of this? Ethan? My mother's approval? The life that was supposed to be mine? Her silence is answer enough. You know what's funny? I pull out my phone, stopping the recording. You just confirmed everything we suspected about the forgeries. The FBI will be very interested in this conversation. The color drains from her face. You can't. I already did. And Ethan can tell my father that his little scheme just gave us exactly what we needed. Ruby, wait. She grabs my arm, desperate now. You don't understand. They'll destroy you. They have things on you that even you don't know about. I lean close, speaking quietly. Let them try. Because what they don't understand is that I stopped being afraid of losing everything the moment they took it all away. My phone buzzes. Daniel, right on schedule. The FBI just picked up Lily. He texts. Your father's lawyer is calling everyone in for damage control. I show Sophie the message, watching her perfect facade crumble. You should go. I'm sure they'll want everyone on script before the media gets wind of this. They're your family, she whispers. How can you do this to them? They stopped being my family the moment they decided I was expendable. I start walking away, then turn back. Oh, and Sophie? Those documents you brought? They're inadmissible now. Fruit of the poisonous tree, my lawyer calls it. Say hello to my father's legal team for me. I walk away, my hands shaking but my stride steady. Daniel's waiting in our car around the corner, and through his window I can see Ethan's car peeling out of its hiding spot. You okay? Daniel asks as I slide in. I watch Sophie hurry toward Ethan's retreating car, clutching her designer bag like a shield. No, I answer honestly, but I will be. The FBI wants to meet again. They're particularly interested in those offshore accounts you mentioned. I nod, thinking of the dominoes we've carefully arranged. Then let's go knock down the first one. Because that's the thing about family legacies. They can be dismantled just as carefully as they were built. And I learned from the best how to tear something apart from the inside out. The Morrison family's disgrace unfolds in high definition across every news channel. I watch from Daniel's apartment as reporters dissect each new revelation. The fraudulent donations, the offshore accounts, the years of manipulation. My phone hasn't stopped buzzing with messages from former friends choosing sides. They're calling it the Morrison Foundation scandal, Daniel says, muting the TV. Your father's board members are jumping ship. I should feel triumphant. Instead, I feel hollow, watching my mother's carefully curated world crumble in real time. The latest footage shows her leaving their lawyer's office, pearl necklace conspicuously absent. My phone rings, an unknown number. Ruby Morrison. You've made your point. Lily's voice sounds raw, unfamiliar. They're freezing the foundation's assets. Father's having chest pains. Are you happy now? You don't get to play victim, Lily. Not after everything. They're investigating Daniel, too. Her words hit like ice water. Did you know about his connection to Sophie? Before he was fired? The room tilts slightly. What are you talking about? Ask him about the Christmas party, about why he really approached you afterward. I look at Daniel, who's suddenly very interested in his laptop screen. You're lying. For once, I'm not. Lily's laugh sounds broken. Guess we're both suckers for a good manipulation. The call ends. Daniel won't meet my eyes. What did she mean? My voice sounds distant to my own ears. About you and Sophie? Ruby, don't. I stand up, needing space. Just tell me the truth. For once, someone in my life tell me the truth. He closes his laptop slowly. Sophie and I dated briefly while I worked for your father's firm. She's the one who told me about the accounting irregularities. And the Christmas party? When you first talked to me? I knew who you were. Sophie had mentioned... He stops, seeing something in my expression. I approached you because I thought you might help expose what your father was doing. The room spins faster. So I was your way in? Your chance at revenge against my father? At first. He stands, reaching for me. But then I got to know you, and everything changed. Don't touch me. I step back, memories realigning with sickening clarity. All those conversations about standing up to my family, about fighting back, you were pushing me toward this from the start. I was trying to help you see the truth. The truth? I laugh, and it sounds like Lily's broken one. The truth is, I traded one manipulation for another. I just picked the better liar. My phone buzzes again. A news alert. The FBI is expanding their investigation to include Daniel's role in the foundation's finances. Another shows Ethan and Sophie leaving the federal building together, likely cutting deals to save themselves. They're going to say I helped you set this up, Daniel says quietly. Your father's lawyers will paint you as either a willing conspirator or an innocent dupe. Either way, I lose. The reality crashes down. God, I'm such an idiot. Ruby, please let me explain. Explain what? How you used me to get back at my father? How you're no better than Ethan than any of them? My voice cracks. I trusted you. His phone rings, his lawyer, probably with news about the investigation. We both stare at it, understanding what it means. They'll want him to turn on me, just like Sophie and Ethan, just like everyone eventually does. Don't answer it, I whisper, hating how much I still want to believe in him. We can figure this out together. He looks at me for a long moment, and I see the decision in his eyes before he reaches for the phone. I grab my keys and bag, heading for the door. Behind me, I hear him speaking to his lawyer, his voice taking on that familiar, reasonable tone he used to use with me. Used to convince me I could trust him. Outside, reporters spot me immediately. Their questions blur together as I push through them toward my car. Someone shouts about Daniel's connection to Sophie, another about my father's hospitalization. My phone buzzes one last time. A message from my mother. Come home. We can still fix this as a family. I delete it without responding, but her words echo as I drive away from Daniel's apartment, away from another betrayal. Because that's the cruel joke of it all. There's nowhere left to go. No one left to trust. I've torn down everything, only to find myself buried in the rubble. The hospital corridor stretches before me like a gauntlet. My father's heart attack, real or conveniently timed, has drawn everyone here. Through the waiting room window, I see my mother holding court with concerned friends. Lily at her side. They've even managed to look appropriately distressed for the cameras outside. I stride past them, ignoring their startled expressions. Daniel's revelation has given me one last card to play, and I'm done waiting for the right moment. Ruby! Mother's voice carries that familiar warning tone. This isn't the time. It's exactly the time. I turn to face them, aware of the small audience we've attracted. Where's the file? Lily stands, all pretense of sisterly concern dropping from her face. What file? The one proving father orchestrated everything, from Ethan's affair to Daniel's involvement. The one Sophie mentioned before she took her immunity deal. Mother's hand flies to her throat, finding no pearls to clutch. Your father's had a heart attack. Whatever grievances you have are exactly why he's in that room. I step closer, lowering my voice. He knew I'd found proof of the real fraud, didn't he? The children's hospitals that never saw a dime of foundation money? The families who thought they were getting medical care? A nurse hurries past, and we all pause, playing our roles. The moment she's gone, Lily drops her voice to a hiss. You have no idea what you're talking about. Don't I? I pull out my phone, showing them the email I received an hour ago. The FBI is very interested in where that money actually went, especially since some of it traces back to accounts in your name, Lily. Her face drains of color. I didn't know. Of course you didn't. I turned to Mother, because that was the point, wasn't it? Keep Lily in the dark enough to be useful, but not informed enough to be dangerous. Just like you did with Ethan. With Sophie. With me. Everything we did was to protect this family. Mother steps between us, her mask finally cracking. Your father built something magnificent. He built a lie. My voice rises despite myself. And when I wouldn't play along, you decided to destroy me instead. The affair, Daniel's convenient appearance in my life, it was all orchestrated to discredit me if I ever discovered the truth. A commotion down the hall draws our attention. Father's doctor approaches, looking grave. Behind him, I glimpse Father sitting up in bed, very much alive and speaking intensely with his lawyer. Mrs. Morrison, the doctor begins, but I cut him off. Save the performance. He's not dying, is he? This whole scene is just another manipulation. Mother's expression hardens. Security will escort you out. Let them. I've already sent copies of everything to every major news outlet. The real fraud, the missing money, the families you exploited, it all goes public in... I check my phone. 12 minutes. Lily grabs my arm. You can't. They'll arrest all of us. No, they'll arrest him. I nod toward Father's room. And anyone who knowingly helped him. The question is, Lily, how much did you really know? I see the exact moment she understands her position. The same position I was in all those years. The sacrificial daughter, meant to take the fall while the family survives. Mother? Lily turns, desperate, but Mother's already walking toward Father's room, probably to warn him. You know what's funny? I gently remove her hand from my arm. I actually have nothing to do with the news stories. The FBI's been building their case for months. I just needed you all here, together, when it broke. One last family gathering. Lily's phone buzzes. The first headline hits. Then Mother's. Then every phone in the waiting room. Through the window, I see Father's lawyer stand abruptly, staring at his phone in horror. You could have warned me, Lily whispers. Like you warned me about Ethan? About Daniel? I step back as FBI agents appear at both ends of the corridor. Goodbye, Lily. Try to pick better allies in prison than you did in life. I walk away as the agents move in, their warrants ready. Behind me, I hear Mother's carefully controlled voice finally crack. Father's lawyer demanding everyone remain silent. Lily's heels clicking frantically on the hospital floor as she tries to escape. But I don't look back. I've spent enough time watching my family destroy things. Now I get to watch them face the consequences. And for the first time since this all began, the hollow feeling in my chest starts to fill with something that feels surprisingly like peace. I sit alone in the courtroom as my father receives his sentence. 20 years for fraud, embezzlement, and exploitation. Mother got 12, her carefully maintained composure finally cracking as they led her away. Lily took a plea deal. 3 years, in exchange for her testimony. The media circus has mostly moved on to fresher scandals, though our family's fall still makes occasional headlines. The latest shows Ethan and Sophie's engagement announcement. Their smiles as practiced as ever. They're rebuilding their lives on the West Coast, far from the wreckage here. The courtroom's closing soon, Miss Morrison. The janitor's voice echoes in the empty chamber. Just a minute more, I say, running my fingers over the smooth wooden barrier. This room has held so many endings lately. So many carefully constructed lies torn apart under oath. My phone buzzes. A text from Daniel. He's been trying to explain, to apologize, to find some way back. I delete it without reading, just like all the others. Some betrayals can't be undone, even if they led to necessary ends. Outside, autumn leaves scatter across the courthouse steps. A familiar figure waits by the bottom. Lily, out on bail until her sentencing next week. She's traded her designer clothes for something simpler, more honest somehow. I thought I'd find you here, she says as I approach. One last look at the battlefield? Something like that. I stop a few steps above her, maintaining the height advantage we both understand is symbolic. Shouldn't you be preparing for your new life? I've been thinking about Christmas. She wraps her arms around herself, looking smaller than I've ever seen her. That party, when Mother gave me the pearls. You weren't the only one being manipulated that night. Lily, no, let me finish. She turns, facing me fully. I thought I was their favorite, their perfect daughter, but I was just another puppet. They knew about my gambling debts, used them to control me. The affair with Ethan, the foundation position, It was all orchestrated to keep us both in line. I study her face, searching for the familiar signs of manipulation. Instead, I find something new. Clarity. Why are you telling me this now? Because you were right about everything except one thing. She reaches into her bag, pulling out a familiar strand of pearls. These were meant for you. I stole them from Mother's room the night before Christmas. It was the first time I actively chose to hurt you, instead of just following their script. She holds them out, but I don't take them. Keep them. They're part of your restitution now. That's not why. She stops, dropping her hand. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that at least one person in this family finally sees you clearly. A court officer appears at the top of the steps. Miss Morrison? There's some final paperwork for the estate settlement. I nod, then turn back to Lily. I hope you find whatever you're looking for in prison. I really do. What about you? What are you looking for now? The question catches me off guard. For so long, my purpose has been revenge, justice, survival. Now, standing here in the aftermath, I realize I don't know. I'm looking for the person I might have been, I say finally, if I hadn't spent so long trying to be who everyone else wanted. Lily nods, understanding passing between us for perhaps the first time. She's probably amazing, she says softly, then turns and walks away, the pearls clutched in her fist. I watch her go, feeling something shift inside me. Not forgiveness, I'm not sure I'll ever manage that, but maybe understanding, maybe even peace. The officer clears his throat politely. I climb the steps, ready to sign the papers that will officially dissolve the Morrison Foundation and distribute its remaining assets to the families we hurt. Ready to close this chapter of my life. But as I reach for the pen, I realize something. Revenge wasn't the end of my story. It was just the beginning of a different one. One where I get to write every page myself, without anyone else's expectations or manipulations. I sign my name, just Ruby, no Morrison, empty, and step into whatever comes next.